In the heart of 1980s Detroit, a black teenager sat hunched over a thrift store computer, coding the future. But no one knew it. Not the teachers who ignored him. Not the tech companies who later copied his work. And definitely not the history books that would leave his name out entirely. His name was Elijah McKenzie, a self-taught prodigy. And according to whispers in the AI world, he built the foundations of machine learning long before Silicon Valley cared to admit it. But if that's true, why does nobody know his name? Because when you're black, brilliant, and ahead of your time, they don't put you on a pedestal. They bury you under the very empire you helped create. At just 17, Elijah had created an early neural net that could recognize speech patterns. His model predicted emotions from voice data, decades before Siri or Alexa were even concepts. But when he tried to patent it, the university laughed. The lawyers said it was too ambitious. And just months later, the same exact framework appeared in a paper published by a white MIT researcher. Coincidence? Or corporate theft masked as innovation? And this is just the beginning. Because Elijah's story doesn't end in that dusty basement. It spirals into a global empire built on his stolen genius. From Amazon to OpenAI, from Google to your smartphone. And now, AI is everywhere. Except in the hands of the people who actually helped build it. They erased him from history. But today, we bring him back. This is the hidden story of Elijah McKenzie, the black mind behind modern AI, and the terrifying consequences of ignoring black brilliance in the tech age. By 1992, Elijah McKenzie had all but disappeared from the tech scene. No college degree, no investors, no patents, just a stack of floppy disks, a notebook full of algorithms, and a bitter taste in his mouth. The world was already moving on. Speech recognition was exploding. Major universities were filing patents. Startups were raising millions. And Elijah? He was stocking shelves at an electronics store, watching his own ideas advertised on boxed software with names like NeuroTalk and Deep Voice. He knew what he was seeing. That software didn't come from nowhere. It came from his lines of code. Lines he shared years ago with a local professor he thought was a mentor. Lines that were dismissed as too advanced. Now, suddenly, they were everywhere. But Elijah, he was invisible. He didn't have a legal team. He didn't even have money to buy a domain name. But he had one thing left: receipts, handwritten notes, data logs, old disk backups, prototype tapes with timestamps from before the mainstream models. And once he got online, dial-up modem screech and all, he started posting. Tech forums, Usenet groups, even early hacker boards. He told the world, "I built this. You stole it. I can prove it." At first, nobody listened. But then, someone did. Not a journalist, not a lawyer, not even a fellow black techie. No, Elijah's first real ally was a white software engineer from Estonia, an anonymous coder who saw one of Elijah's early models and recognized something terrifying. "This looks exactly like the core logic in Google's voice engine," he wrote. "Only yours is older." That message changed everything. Because, for the first time, Elijah had external validation. This wasn't just paranoia. This was real. He filed a pro-se lawsuit in 1999. No legal team, no money, just fire in his chest and a thumb drive full of code. He sued 3 companies: a research lab at MIT, a private AI startup later acquired by Amazon, and a voice tech developer that would become one of Google's first acquisitions. But here's the thing about suing giants. They don't argue. They erase. Files went missing. Emails never arrived. Lawyers sent cease and desist letters to Elijah, not the other way around. Then came the blacklisting. Job applications vanished. Forum accounts were deleted. One tech blogger who tried to interview Elijah had their site mysteriously shut down. And that's when it got scary. Because Elijah realized this wasn't just theft. This was digital colonialism. They weren't just using his ideas. They were building an empire on top of them, while ensuring the originator would never step foot in the kingdom. They want the code, not the coder. They want the genius, not the black man behind it. That quote would later go viral, 2 decades too late. But Elijah wasn't done. Because just like every underdog before him, he refused to fold. He did what black brilliance always does when pushed out. He built his own. For 5 years, Elijah McKenzie vanished. No posts, no lawsuits, no interviews, just silence. To most, he was another flame that flickered out. A would-have been in the footnotes of tech history. But behind that silence, a storm was brewing. Elijah had gone underground, literally and digitally. He left Detroit, moved off-grid to a tiny apartment in Baltimore, and built a lab out of e-waste and scrapyard parts. No investors, no fancy degrees, no Silicon Valley pipeline, just a $200 laptop, a hacked Wi-Fi signal, and the blueprint for revenge. Because Elijah had a vision, if the system wouldn't let him in, he'd burn the gate down and build a new one. This time, he wasn't doing it alone. In secret forums, on encrypted networks, Elijah started gathering a crew. Not your typical tech bros. A black single mom in Atlanta teaching herself Python between nursing shifts. A Ghanaian college dropout reverse engineering machine learning in an internet cafe. A 16-year-old coder from Oakland, banned from GitHub for violating conduct. Misfits, dropouts, geniuses. Elijah called them the Recoders, and together they began building something the world had never seen. An open-source, bias-free AI engine. One that didn't just recognize faces, but could spot racial bias in policing data. One that didn't just transcribe voices, but could understand cultural dialects like AAVE and Caribbean patois. One that wasn't trained on stolen data, but fed by community contributions and voluntary uploads. It was radical, unfiltered, and dangerous to the powers that be. They named it OBI, our Black Intelligence. OBI was more than code. It was protest. It was history. It was the antidote to digital erasure. And then, someone leaked it. Not the code, the name, one tweet. Anonymous. Just 3 words. Elijah is back. A mysterious AI project called OBI is shaking up the tech world. Who is behind this disruptive new model outperforming Google's algorithms? Some say it's the work of a forgotten genius from Detroit. Elijah's name was back in the headlines, this time on his terms. But not everyone was cheering. Within weeks, cease and desist letters started flooding in. Not just from companies Elijah once accused, but from new players, ones with government contracts. Cybersecurity teams tried to shut OBI down. Hosting platforms pulled the code. Corporate-funded media called it a threat to public safety. Why? Because OBI didn't just work. It exposed the ugly truth behind mainstream AI. It had been trained on biased data, stolen culture, and unchecked power. OBI proved that a group of black coders, given no funding and no access, could build something cleaner, smarter, and more ethical than trillion-dollar tech companies. And that was unforgivable. It wasn't just a tech revolution, it was cultural. People were furious. Not just black folks, activists, educators, even disillusioned engineers. The recoders had sparked a global movement. Open-source chapters of OBI popped up in Lagos, in Kingston, in Philadelphia, in Soweto. Hackers repurposed the code to flag discriminatory hiring practices. Artists used it to train AI that actually understood black expression. The people were reclaiming AI, reclaiming power. But with every download, Elijah knew. They were coming. The world was finally listening. OBI was everywhere, on college campuses, inside activist circles, even in the hands of whistleblowers. But power doesn't let go quietly. Elijah McKenzie had gone from forgotten genius to public enemy #1 in Silicon Valley. And the empire? It fought back like a wounded animal. OBI linked to misinformation campaign? Elijah McKenzie accused of hacking U.S. defense systems. Former associate says OBI is a front for cybercrime. The playbook was textbook. Smear the leader. Sow division. Buy silence. Then came the leaks. Private emails. Personal photos. A decades-old mugshot from a protest when Elijah was just 17. Suddenly, the media wasn't talking about his code. They were talking about his character. And if that wasn't enough, a betrayal cut even deeper. One of the recoders, someone Elijah had trusted, was caught in a back-channel deal. A $2 million NDA signed with a private defense contractor tied to Amazon's AI division. They weren't just trying to discredit Elijah. They were trying to buy his movement out from under him. And for a moment, it looked like they'd win. Elijah went dark again. No tweets, no videos, no statements. Whispers spread. He's scared. He sold out. OBI's dead. But then, on June 19th, Juneteenth, a live stream popped up on a channel no one had seen before. Just a black screen, white text, and a synthetic voice trained on Elijah's own cadence. They stole my name. They stole my code. But they will never steal the future. Elijah had recorded his final upload. And it wasn't just a speech. It was everything. The entire OBI source code, documentation, training data, even the internal corruption receipts, encrypted, decentralized, and mirrored across thousands of global nodes. It was no longer in his hands. It was in ours. If you're watching this, Elijah said, that means I've already disappeared. I didn't run. They silenced me. But my ideas, our ideas, will never die. He ended with one final line. Don't fight to get inside their system. Build your own. Better. Freer. Ours. And just like that, the stream ended. Elijah McKenzie hasn't been seen since. No public appearances, no confirmed sightings, just digital breadcrumbs and a legacy too big to bury. But OBI lives on. Today, it powers accessibility tech for disabled communities. It helps translate African dialects that big tech ignored. It trains bias detectors for legal systems across the globe. And in every line of its code, one truth remains. A black man from Detroit laid the foundation for the future of artificial intelligence. And they tried to erase him. But we remember, because OBI isn't just software. It's a reminder that black brilliance doesn't need permission. We don't wait for inclusion. We create revolution. You were never meant to hear this story. That's why you must share it. If you believe in giving credit where it's due, if you believe black minds deserve more than the shadows, then help keep Elijah's legacy alive. Comment, "We are the Recoders" below. Tag a friend who needs to hear this. And most importantly, never let history forget who really built the future. They stole his code, but not his legacy.